Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the MontanaSports.com Frontier Conference Coaches Show. Richie Melby joined in studio, as always, by Carroll College head coach Mike Van Diest. And, Coach, coming off the bye week, but no rest for the weary, obviously. We talked about it last week, how you guys were going to spend that Saturday off, but it was always prepping for the College of Idaho in this coming Saturday's game.
Yeah, we had 3 good days of practice last week, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. The players had a captains and a team meeting on Friday, watching practice schedules and some of the tape from College of Idaho. And then they were off on Saturday, and we came back and practiced on Sunday and had a good day coming back. So the rest was good for those guys as well as the coaches.
Fire, emotion, passion. That's something you and I have chatted about, something Nick Hallett and Jim Hogan and I chatted about just at practices. Who's stepping up in those areas? Just those, guys to try and get everybody fired up on the field on game day.
Well, we talk about it as coaches, and obviously we knew Bo Meyer and, Alec Chia, Joe Kramer's a great one, Tucker Johnson's a good one, but there's got to be others. You can't just have 5 or 6. And it doesn't have to be a starter, it doesn't have to be necessarily a senior. From some young guys, Drew Melton, I think, has stepped up into that role, is doing a great job, and he's playing that way, but he's very emotional. He wants to do well. Another guy on defense is Chase Bowen, and Chase is a linebacker that's rotating in there with David and Reese at the inside backer. His practice habits are intense. I think it's rubbing off on some of his teammates, and other guys can see that. Isaiah King, I think, has that ability to be an emotional leader. And on the offensive side, it's kind of tough. Those guys are sometimes, they're composed. They play within themselves. Connor Fone's been hurt. He's been a guy that can be very emotional. I think Eric Dawson can pick it up on the offense.
When we look back at the season so far, all the way back to that opening Montana Tech Thursday night game, up until that last game and the win against MSU-Northern, what are you seeing? What are you seeing that you like when you're watching probably more film than anybody, maybe in the country?
Well, when we go back, Alex Castens and I and our defensive staff, we did some cut-ups. We did about 7 or 8 cut-ups of our first 4 games, looking at some tendencies that we have, looking at different things that the teams are doing to us from game to game. And there's some plays that we're making. Defensively last year, we were really poor on third down. We were getting up about 42, 44%. These last 4 games on 3rd and 5+ or more, we're giving up 31% against us, and that's a big plus. Now we got to stop them on 2nd down because that's been a little bit of a Achilles heel for us. But I really like on what we're doing defensively in terms of some of the guys and playmakers. It's the big plays that are hurting us. Teams aren't just driving the ball down their throat. Offensively, Major's still the bright spot. We fell behind so much at Southern Oregon, but he still averaged 5 yards a carry. And so back-to-back games, he's starting to put it together.
What about College of Idaho, the film that you've seen on them? They're a scary team at home, obviously. Nobody likes to play over there in Idaho, but when they come on the road, what have you seen so far this year?
Well, they're very talented. The quarterback is a better athlete than they had a year ago. They spread the ball out a lot more. They lost their All-American tight end. He graduated, and that was a big loss for them, but they're filling it in with 4 or 5 other guys kind of in that spot. The running backs, I think, are very talented. They've got 2 of them that they rotate in and out. Defensively, they're very physical in their front 4, and you can see that. They're physical, their tackles get after the guards. They can match up one-on-one in there. They can give you a lot of problems in that A and B gap. Nate Moore is a guy that was an All-American, came back for another year. He's a guy that leads the charge in that secondary. So they're ball hawks. I think they've caused 10 or 11 fumbles already this year. They've got a number of interceptions. So we got to secure the football against that group.
Did this bye week give you a chance to get some of those guys on that injured, quote-unquote injured list back healthy, ready to go this time around?
It's hard to tell. This week will tell at practice. Tuesdays and Wednesdays go a long ways to see if a couple of those receivers are coming back. The only guy that we had banged up from last week's game was David Barnett with kind of a turf toe, but that swelling's gone down. He'll practice this week. He's good to go. So everybody else is on the mend. It's just a matter of some of the guys that we lost early in the year to see how they come back. And Curtis isn't helping us with the weather right now. If it was a little bit warmer, I think those hamstrings might loosen up a little bit quicker.
I don't know if Curtis has ever helped us with the weather. When we look at the big football game coming up this week, homecoming, obviously, against the College of Idaho, just kind of the fun atmosphere that surrounds that, not just for the football team, but all of the fall sports, and even guys coming back that were on the basketball teams or track and field, cross country.
Well, you look at the Hall of Fames that are going in, and of course Andy Brown here from Helena High, and was a great player for Great Turcotte in the basketball team. what a tremendous player he was, and what a great tight end he could have been. You know, he was pretty talented. But you bring back the 2007 National Championship team and the Brandon Day on the Sports Illustrated cover, John Barnett, who's the MVP of the league, and you bring back guys like, you know, there's just so many of them. Marcus Miller, who had the great game against Montana Tech at the end of the year with 17 points that he scored, and we win 17-14. Rick Young, Owen Keppen, who the next year was the Defensive Player of the Year in the nation. So there's some very talented players. It'll be good to get them back in force.
It has to be kind of fun for you guys, too, to see a guy like right here, Garrett Thompson, now has his own photography business, and that's really booming and taking off. To see them transition from football, I remember he was on that game day cover on Halloween with the face paint and stuff, and then taking over their careers and moving on with their lives as well.
Well, it is. It's great to see these guys that become doctors, lawyers. Owen is a firefighter here in Helena and is outstanding, and excuse me, great husband and great father, and you look at what he's done, and Nick Maladragovich and Garrett Garros has their own business in pink gloves, and they're all around the world promoting that. And then you have Cody Lamb and Shane Van Diest and Mason Siddick, guys that are high school coaches who won't be able to come back, but they've taken it and they're influencing young people just like they were influenced throughout their careers.
And then finally, the coaching world, sad news, losing one of its legends, somebody that you have a relationship with. Your thoughts on Coach Tiller?
Well, he was kind of a trendsetter in his own ways. I think he was a throwback out of Toledo, Ohio, was a great player at Montana State. He hired me at the University of Wyoming in 1991 when he came, and those 6 years there was just fantastic. He was a great man. He was a great mentor. We spent a lot of time together recruiting, traveling through the state of Montana and Wyoming together. We spent a lot of time with our sons going down to the Chuck Wagon Cafe for biscuits and gravy on Saturdays in the summer. He just had a great way about him. He had kind of an underlying humor about him that some people didn't see, but he was a coach's coach. He was a great guy to coach for. He treated his assistants very well. A lot of things I learned from him. I wish maybe I had a little bit more of his sideline demeanor that he was noted for. But he brought the Big Ten back to its heels. You know, he came in that passing game, and Billy Dickens and Drew Brees and Painter and those guys, they set the world on fire back there throwing the ball. Defensive coordinators had to stay up late at night figuring out how they're going to stop 4 and 5 wideout sets. He's as great a football coach as there is.
Absolutely, and those coaching branches go all across the country. It's kind of fun to see the relationships that you guys build. Coach Van Diest, thank you very much for joining us as always. Coming up next in the Frontier Conference Coaches Show, bit of a rivalry game in state. Montana Tech, Montana Western. We check out the Orediggers and the Bulldogs. Coming up next. Montana Tech football remains the number 5 team in the entire country, and Chuck Morrell and the Orediggers, of course, enjoying the week off, their bye week this past Saturday. So, of course, it's now time to dial things in for a rivalry showdown in state just down the road against Montana Western in the Bulldogs.
We had a great week of practice last week. I mean, our guys really came in focused and dialed in, and they know that there's areas that we certainly got to look at improving in right now. And so, you know, we did a lot of very situationally specific pieces in practice, red zone and 2 minutes and some of those types of things just to kind of work to keep our guys on their edge.
Are there situational drills like that you start adding more in as the season goes on, especially, you know, you start thinking road playoffs or road game for a playoff seed or something like that, where we need to be at least understanding of what would happen in this situation?
Yeah, I think, you know, certainly we try to take pieces of practice actually every day and work on that. But yeah, there's certainly things when, you know, you're going on the road and different field conditions and different situations that might arise that you want to spend a little extra time preparing on. And, you know, again, being a veteran squad and a veteran team, we just got to make sure those things stay fresh, because, you know, at some point during the season, you know, those specific situations are going to arise, and how you handle them and how you deal with them a lot of times will determine the outcome of the win or the loss in the game.
Take me back to the first day of practice, leading up to that Thursday night win against Carroll College, leading up to your guys' last victory. Are you seeing the improvements that you'd hoped in every aspect?
Yeah, certainly. You know, I think obviously our offense has been very consistent this season, and they've been very strong. The thing I think I'm, you know, most pleased about in weeks 1 through 4 is the progress that our defense has made. You know, defensively came in, had a pretty young crew, had a lot of new guys starting, and now you can see that experience that we've had over the last 4 weeks starting to pay off for us, and we're playing better and better defensively right now. And, you know, I just challenging our guys to, you know, if we can get things clicking on all cylinders, if we can be outstanding on offense, offense and play great defense and excel in special teams, then we're going to be a very formidable opponent to anybody out there.
How much do you guys as coaches tinker with things throughout the season? You see something watching film where you think we've got the personnel that could run that offensive play, that could line up in that defense, and whether it makes it to the game field or not, at least trying it in practice and seeing, or is it something where we just stick with what we know and what we've done here?
Well, that's nonstop. I think we're always looking at those types of things. We've got to have your core fundamentals and your core identity, and that's what you're going to base off of in terms of what you're going to do schematically on a week in and week out basis. But as coaches, we're tinkerers. We love to mess around with different schemes and looks, and I think especially in our league where we have to play teams twice, that's kind of a critical component to be able to maybe adapt and look at a few different things where we play in a league where there's not a ton of surprises every week.
Montana Western this Saturday on the road down in Dillon. Bulldogs needing a win. There's probably not a team in the league they'd rather get it against as far as rivalry games go. What you've seen in film from Coach Norse's squad?
Well, first of all, they're very physical and very aggressive. I think that's been a hallmark of their program, is that they're going to come out and play with a lot of energy and play with a lot of effort and play a physical style of football. And so certainly we've got to be able to match that intensity level. I think Dillon's a tough place to play. Their confines, their facility down there is definitely different. I think it's a very difficult road game for us. So I know our guys, it's certainly a rival game. I know our guys are going to be up for the challenge. They're going to be excited to go out there and show what they can do.
Biggest key for you guys to come away, is it a defense? Is it offense? Where's that one thing you feel needs to be better than it has been to get out of there with a W?
Well, I think that number one thing is takeaway margin. I think, one thing that Western's done a pretty consistent job over the last couple of years here is taking the ball away. And if you look at our statistically right now, that's an area of weakness for us. We've turned the ball over more times than we've taken it away. And so I think, controlling that takeaway margin is certainly going to be something that's going to, propel us to a win down there.
You and I chat about it every week, the parity in this league. MSU-Northern gets its first win in a non-conference game, and then Rocky almost knocks off that Southern Oregon team, top 10 in the country, with the, going for the win at the end of the game. Just kind of your thoughts as this season continues to dwindle down.
Well, I think there's going to be more of that. We're kind of at the halfway point of the season. I think you're going to see more games like that are coming down to the final play of the game. And I say this repeatedly, but I think you can throw the records out almost every time that we get together and play each other, because I think every team is very close in talent. Every team is very close in terms of what the coaches bring to the table. It's a very well-coached league, and so, it never surprises me to see that, a team like Rocky almost knocks off Southern, or, those are things that we're very wary of ourselves kind of going down the stretch, is that, you really can't spend a lot of time focused on your opponent's records. You got to make sure that you're doing the right things to prepare to be successful every week.
And then finally, you guys make a living on the sidelines, but how nice was it to spend some time with the kiddos? I'm sure your assistant coaches did the same thing. Players maybe got a chance to see some friends and family.
Yeah, I think it's outstanding. I think it's it's kind of that right in the middle of the season. You've been going hard since the beginning of August. Gives everybody a chance to get away a little bit, and the reason that we're successful, I think, all the time at a place like Montana Tech is how invested the coaches' families are into what we do, and how invested the players' families are into what we do, and it is a family atmosphere. And so when you get a chance to step back and say thank you and give those people a hug, that's always a positive thing. And it kind of helps you recharge your batteries a little bit too going into the second half of the season.
Coach Morrell and company enjoying that much-deserved Saturday off, spending it with family and friends, but now all in on the Bulldogs. It's a Saturday 1 o'clock kickoff down in Dillon. We have more from your favorite Frontier Conference teams right now at montanasports.com. And it's not just football. We're talking about golf, of course, cross country, soccer, throw in some volleyball, and basketball practices are beginning already as well. Head over to the website, hover over that Frontier tab, and search for your favorite school for all of the latest scores, highlights, and feature stories. Make sure and download the montanasports.com app to stay up to date on all things athletics in the Treasure State, from the Frontier Conference right up to the Big Sky and all your prep sports as well. Scores, highlights, stories of your sons and daughters, nieces and nephews, etc., delivered right to your phone or tablet. Just search Montana Sports. That's one word, Montana Sports and download the app today. Let's take a look at your updated Frontier Conference football standings now. Southern Oregon climbing ahead of Montana Tech as SOU enjoying a bye week this week. Tech gets back on the road at Montana Western as mentioned. Rockies 3-2. Those Bulldogs are at even 500 in Frontier Conference play. Carroll College, Eastern Oregon, College of Idaho all 1-3, and MSU-Northern picked up its first win of the season. Non-conference though at Mayville State. The Lights 0-4 as they try and go for conference win number 1. As you look at this week's schedule, 5th-ranked Montana Tech in that rivalry game in Dillon Saturday, 1 o'clock kickoff down there. Meanwhile, College of Idaho, Carroll College Saturday at 1. One of those two teams picks up win number 2 in the league, and MSU-Northern's on the road in a night game, 6 o'clock kickoff out in LeGrand, take it on Eastern Oregon. That'll do it for another edition of the MontanaSports.com Frontier Conference Coaches Show. Remember, all things Frontier Conference Sports can be found at MontanaSports.com, including your players of the week and all of those scores, standings, and highlights from every sport under the big sky. Richie Melby, MTN Sports.